Guy used to tell me, tighten up every chance you get. A guy used to say this to me in prison every time I saw him. Tighten it up every chance you get. If you see room in your life for improvement and somebody's giving you a suggestion, take it.
That was Torrance Johnson, and this is the SHAIR Podcast.
It's time for the SHAIR Recovery Podcast, where we bring you amazing life-changing success stories from addicts and alcoholics all over the world who share their inspiring journey in recovery. And now, here's your host,
Welcome, everybody, and thank you for joining us on another episode of the SHAIR Podcast. And today we have Torrance Johnson joining us on the show. Torrance is the founder of Recover Period, a recovery clothing line whose slogan is, wear something that means something. Torrance came to the conclusion after evaluating where he was in his life and who he is as an individual that today's fashion, at least the bulk of it, does not express who he is or what he is passionate about. Torrance is a man whose life has been affected by witnessing friends, family, and communities taken over by an illness most consider a lifetime battle, including Torrance himself. He is driven to connect with and lend support to as many people as possible whose lives have been affected by the disease of addiction, to celebrate the small victories, the triumphs, and yes, to give meaningful support during times of struggle. Join us now as Torrance takes us through his battle with drugs and alcohol, the wreckage it caused in his life, and his journey into recovery up until today. But first, today is January 15th, and it's my birthday. So I thought we'd do things a little bit differently, and maybe moving forward for 2017, this is how I'll open the episodes. It's Sunday, January 15th, and the reading in Just for Today for Narcotics Anonymous is Fear, which is an interesting reading for my birthday. That's the first thing I thought. And it reads, we grow to feel comfortable with our higher power as a source of strength. As we learn to trust his power, we begin to overcome our fear of life. Powerless as we are, living on self-will is a frightening, unmanageable experience. In recovery, we have turned our will and our lives safely over to the care of God of our understanding. When we lapse in our program, when we lose conscious contact with our higher power, we begin to take control of our own lives again, refusing the care of the God of our understanding. If we do not make a daily decision to surrender our lives to the care of our higher power, we may become overwhelmed with our fear of life. Through working the 12 steps, we found that faith in a power greater than ourselves helps relieve our fear. As we draw closer to a loving God, we become more conscious of our higher power. And the more conscious we are of God's care for us, the less our fears. When we feel afraid, we ask ourselves, is this fear an indication of lack of faith in my life? Have I taken control again, only to find my life still unmanageable? If we answer yes to these questions, we can overcome our fear by turning our will and our lives back over to the care of the God of our understanding. Just for today, I will rely on the care of my higher power to relieve my fear of life. My name's Omar and I'm an addict. And that's exactly where I'm at today. And this is going to be the theme for 2017. Towards the end of 2016, I would wake up in the middle of the nights completely terrified, overwhelmed, the to-do list running through my head, the itty-bitty shitty committee just screaming. And from the moment I start to wake up, just gets louder and louder and louder and louder. And this feeling of being overwhelmed just takes over. And so what I've had to do is just get up in the middle of the night, get on my knees and pray. Just, God, please take this away from me. I can't do this. Please help me. And then I'll put on some sort of meditation, guided meditation to help me fall to sleep. And as I read this reading for today, my reading on my birthday, starting out January 2017, this needs to be the theme for 2017. And I have to ask myself every single day, is this fear an indication of a lack of faith in my life? And have I taken control again, only to find my life still unmanageable? So when I am in me mode and I am trying to figure out how to make the voices stop, how to stop feeling overwhelmed, how to take control of my life, then what I've done is I've removed the power greater than myself. My conscious contact with God has been severed. And so the solution is reconnecting. And the only way for me to do that is more meetings, more prayer, more meditation. And for me, a huge component of that is my fellowship, the people in recovery that are in my life. That's what I need to lean on, and that is what will ultimately connect me to my higher power again. So this recording on January 15th is an affirmation, a commitment to myself that for 2017, I need to do the same things I did my first year in recovery, which is pray for God's will in my life every single day, to have faith in the God of my understanding and turn it over on a daily basis, turn it all over, and to be of service. Thanks for letting me share. So now let's get into Torrance's story. But first, if you have not yet rated and reviewed the SHAIR Podcast, please, one of the best ways to help support the show is to go to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rating and a review, and that helps catapult us up the ratings on iTunes, which will make it easier for more and more people to find the SHAIR Podcast. Now, in the past, many of you have asked, how can I help support the show? Well, I'm going to keep it simple for you. First, I want to thank the people who have sent us donations via PayPal. There are a few of you that still continuously send donations on a monthly basis, but we can always use more. So on a weekly basis, I have over 5,000 listeners every week who listen to the SHAIR Podcast. So if 100 of you guys would send me $5 a month, that would completely support the show from beginning to end. So for those of you who have the wherewithal to send me $5 either PayPal or by Patreon, then please feel free to do so. We could really use the support. Also, when you're purchasing stuff on Amazon, there are those of you that are still clicking on the Amazon link on the SHAIR Podcast website before doing their purchases on Amazon. But again, there are thousands of you listening. If each and every one of you could just remember to go to the SHAIR website, click on the Amazon button before you do your shopping, that is also going to make a tremendous difference for us financially. So I haven't been one to emphasize it in the past, right? But now we've got a solid listener base. I know you guys love the show. I know you guys get a lot out of it. There are those of you, just like in the meetings, that are newcomers. The money's tight. Keep listening. The show will always be for free. The SHAIR Podcast private accountability group will always be for free. But for those of you who can, kick in a couple of bucks. Help us out here. And not to forget the SHAIR Podcast private accountability group. Again, it's growing like crazy. Guys, go to the SHAIR Podcast, www.theshairpodcast. Click on the button that says join the Facebook private group. And while you're at it, right underneath, it says follow us on Facebook. Click on that one, and that will take you to the fan page. Go to the fan page and click like if you haven't done so. Let's build that audience. The fan page likes make a big difference in also finding the SHAIR Podcast. But for those of you that are in the private accountability group, you know how vital and important that has become. There's over 1,500 members in there. If you don't want to go to meetings, if you have problems connecting with people, if you need something more than just the podcasts and are not ready to cross over into meetings or some other structured program, then the private accountability group is perfect for you. Jump in there, make comments, ask questions, or just read the posts. There are so many people out there that have the same questions that you have. All you have to do is just read those and then read all the follow-up answers and responses that come. And make sure to subscribe to my weekly newsletter so you know every single time a brand new episode is launched. And of course, if you have any questions, just email me, at theshairpodcast.com, and I'll get back to you as soon as possible. So now a quick message from our sponsors, and then on to the show. Sober Nation is the largest online recovery community and treatment resource center. They provide treatment resources to those struggling with addiction, as well as to the family members who are caught in the crossfire. On top of that, Sober Nation is a huge community of good people who share their experience with each other. They have informative content, recovery and addiction news, as well as an entire clothing line which helps expand the culture of recovery. They can easily be found at www.sobernation.com. Sober Nation is putting recovery on the map. Hey, Torrance, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Omar.
I'm excited to have you on the show today, man. How you feeling?
Feeling great. Feeling great.
Excellent. I love it. I love it. Okay. So, folks, today we have Torrance Johnson joining us on the SHAIR Podcast. And Torrance is the founder of Recover Period, a recovery clothing line whose slogan is, wear something that means something.
I appreciate the plug.
All right, good. Well, we're going to plug it some more. All right. So you ready to dive right in here?
I'm ready to dive right in.
Let's do this. Okay. So first, Torrance, tell us a little bit about what your daily routine looks like, including recovery.
Usually, it starts out with a prayer. Starts my day off with a prayer. After that, the usual: brush your teeth, take your shower. I try to get to a meeting at least 4 times a week.
Nice.
I think that's very important, considering I only have 2 years and 4 months of recovery. So it's very essential.
Oh, I get it. So what is your actual anniversary date?
My actual anniversary date is 7/1/14.
Excellent. Now, you were talking about you get up in the morning and you pray. Do you have a routine that you do, or can go a little more deeper into how you maintain your spiritual condition, that conscious contact with the higher power?
Okay, so I'll dive in a little deeper. It usually starts out with the prayer, thanking the Most High for another day, getting into some scriptures. I like to read at least 1 chapter a day before I head out.
Nice.
And doing the breakfast thing and doing a little bit of workout.
That's important.
I stress a little bit of workout.
Sounds better than nothing.
Yeah, I stress that. And then usually I hit up. There's a meeting out here in Tacoma, Washington. I usually hit up. It's from noon to 1:30, and then I dive back into my artwork.
Okay. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about Recover Period. When did you start that, and what motivated you to get that going?
Let's go back to what motivated me. I had some ideas that I wanted to get done from another person that did screen printing / vinyl. And when I had the work done, it wasn't to my liking. And so when it wasn't to my liking, I kind of looked around and see if I could find somebody else that could do the work. And then I actually ran into somebody that actually did the work that I liked. I thought his work was pretty decent. And what ends up happening is he told me to go look it up on YouTube. And so by that time I was pretty teed off. But what it did, yeah. I'll tell you how life is though. It pissed me off enough to make me want to do my own thing.
Good.
And I think that's just how things work. I'm really grateful for him today. If I remember what he looks like, if I ever see him again in life, I'd really like to shake his hand and say thank you for pissing me off enough to make me want to do my own stuff. And then what ends up happening is I had a friend of mine that did business proposals. And what I did was have him shop me out to a few people. And after a business plan was put together, I have got the equipment, got Photoshop CS6, I got Corel iDraw 7, and I got the equipment. I got a vinyl cutter, plotter, heat press, and I bought a couple of the books and just pretty much self-taught myself after that.
Okay, so you're telling me you actually print these T-shirts yourself?
Correct.
You do it all?
Correct.
See, this is what I'm talking about, man. This is the kind of stuff that our listeners need to hear, man, with, under 3 years of clean time. And I mean, you've basically created your own business, got a business plan. I mean, how many of us were out there doing the deal, thinking about a business plan? You know what I mean?
Yeah. I gotta give all praises to the Most High. He really put me in a great position, put me around some good people that actually believed in what I was doing. I had to show them some artwork, kind of show them that, I was serious about what I was doing. And right. I got around the right people, and once I got around the right people, I had to just show them, my consistency and that I really wanted to do this. And I had to, this is the funny part. they ask you to, what is your niche? And so at that time, I had to tell them, I'm going to do recovery shirts, and I'm going to do this and do that. But I tell you, I had the faith, but I was kind of questioning, could I do it? I was kind of questioning, hey, you know what? What if I fail? I think that was the biggest part of it, was I looked to the failure before I even looked to the how to.
Right.
And that's I mean, that in itself, I have to, all praises due to God, because without him, I wouldn't be where I was at today, and where I'm going is I don't know, but I'm happy to be in the moment.
All right. So what we're going to do here is I want to come back to this. I want to come back to this topic a little bit later as we get closer to the end. Let's start talking about the past and what it was like when the first time. So I'm going to ask you the first question, which is, how old were you the first time you drank or used drugs? And more importantly, how did they make you feel?
17. I was 17. I started out late. Got a late start. One of the things that had took place with me is I wanted to fit in. I wanted to be a part of.
Right.
And everybody that was fitting in and being a part of used some type of substance or alcohol. Okay. And at that time, I moved from New York to Chicago. And so I was thirsty for friends, any type of friend or associate, I was thirsty for it. I looked for it. And I've actually found a connection when we started drinking and smoking marijuana at that time.
Okay, so now that we're all warmed up, I'm going to turn this show over to you, Torrance. And it's time for you now to share your story with us. The battle against drugs and alcohol, the wreckage it caused in your life, when you hit rock bottom, and finally your journey into recovery up until today. So Torrance, take it away, buddy.
All right. I'm originally from Harlem, New York. And I stayed in the projects. They're called the 55 LaSalle projects, which are located on 125th and Amsterdam, between 125th and Broadway, between Broadway and St. Nicholas. And so that's where I was raised. I was raised by a mother that was 19 when she had me, and she was too young to raise me right. And so I found myself waking up sometimes at night when she take off by myself, and I woke up to an empty house on several occasions, I should say. And as a result of that, I started out something I didn't know until later on, that I had abandonment issues. And when she was around, I was always left with the neighbors, and that was never a good feeling. And when she came back, we did spend a little bit of time together. I always felt like a brick in her dress. I always felt as though, I'm still paying rent for those 9 months, that I stayed in her stomach. And what ends up happening, and I just tell you how life works. She ended up getting into some trouble with her and her boyfriend. Oh, another thing too, I want to add this too, is that when I was younger, I used to see her get beat by her pimp, and she told me this was what blew me away. I used to ask her, I said, "Why are you letting this man hit on you?" She says, "I'm doing this for us." And
wow.
As he hits, yeah. So I was thrown, I was thrown into this thinking, okay, well, a man you have to beat your woman. And, and this is how life works. So I had a twatted misconception of what life was to begin with a long, long time ago, before I even touched drugs. And so what ends up happening is the FBI came looking for her, and she ended up fleeing to a third world country. And my grandfather got me. And little be known, when I got to move in my grandfather, I kind of the message was kind of clear, is that my mom was using drugs, and she did have a pimp, and she was drinking. She was doing everything, all the above. The checklist of drugs and alcohol, she pretty much, consumed. And what I ended up finding out about my grandfather, he's a drunk. he's a what they call back there, they call them juice heads, which basically, you know, alcoholics. But he was an alcoholic. And so one of the things I'm learning too, as this all progresses, is that, am I worthy to be loved? And that's where that seed was planted. Okay, now I need love. Now I need to find acceptance somewhere. I'm not going to get it from my mom because she took off with her boyfriend. I'm not going to get it from my grandfather because he's constantly drinking and he has a wife that doesn't like the fact that I'm there, and the responsibility of me being put on my grandfather's there because she wanted her time with it. And so, you know, it's kind of like ping pong between, hey, who wants this kid? Who wants to deal with him? You know, I felt like lost baggage, you know. And so as a result of that, I ended up staying with him until I was 12. And she finally came to get me. And I want to tell you I was happy, but I think I was a little bit more happy to know that I kind of got a little taste of love from my grandfather. I got a taste of it. I didn't get too much of it, but I got just enough to keep me there. I was having trouble in school. I went to Catholic school in New York because I could no longer maintain the public schools because public school down there is equivalent to the mission, being in a mission. If you any state you go into, the public school system is like being in a mission. I mean, hey, we'll get to you when we get to you.
Right.
You know, so I went to Catholic school and I had problems there because everyone else had their mom and dad. And, this is a real treat for you. My dad was one of the kingpins in New York at the time. He sold heroin. And so he would take me out with my sister and we'd go on a little shopping sprees and buying clothes and stuff. But all those clothes, all the money, all the shopping sprees, going out to eat, none of that really mattered. What really mattered was I wanted to be placed somewhere where somebody says, you know what, hey, I love you. Hey, I want this for you. I want to see you do this with your life. I want to see you do that. I want to see you do this. And that was never given to me. So that acceptance, that role, where do I belong in life? What's my place? Where do I go? What happens? The yearning was just so strong. And so I was looking for a hand up, a pat on your back. Hey, you're doing a good job. Anything would have worked. How you doing today? Anything, any of the above would have worked. I could have just said, hey, that would have worked for me at that time. And so I ended up, my mom ended up coming back for me and I ended up moving to Chicago. And so that was a culture shock because you're going from New York to Chicago where you have more of a city life. Chicago is a little bit more of a country kind of people. It was Chicago, but it was more kind of a country type of mentality. And I wasn't on the south side of Chicago or the west side. I was on the north side. So, and it was equally as bad. Maybe a little bit milder, but it was still Chicago. And so, same thing. Got mom, gets back. She's got a boyfriend. Good guy, kind of decent guy. We got along pretty good. And what ends up happening is she was just changing men like she changed her panties. I mean, I get to know one guy, and 2-3 months later, she's got somebody else. And what ends up happening is I end up walking around, finding the streets. By this time, I actually found some from friends or some comrades, I like to call them, that we could run the streets together and find out life. I at that time I was just soaking up the street like a sponge. Everything that I got a hold to, any piece of information, any saying, any type of add-on to who I thought I was and who I needed to be, I got those add-ons. I got the updates. Who's doing this in the street? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? So I kind of like the streets were just, oh my gosh, they were so fascinating because this is the first time that I was actually able to roam free. In New York, I wasn't able to. Because of the addiction, there's a lot of heroin, a lot of needles in the street, a lot of stuff going on in New York. Where in Chicago there weren't that too many things going on. And so anyway, I just fast forward a couple of years later, I end up graduating from grammar school. And so this is where the fun begins. Here's high school. And so now I'm going to high school, where you go to high school in the morning there. It gets cold in the winter, but there's also gang members before you get there. You know, hey, who you riding with? Who you doing? You know, are you in this gang? Are you in that gang? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? And at the time, it was the BGDs, and then it was the vice lords. So, hey, you know, your hats turn to the left or turn to the right. Who are you? What part of the gang are you in? And at that time, I just didn't feel the need to be in a gang. So what they called the people that weren't in a gang, they called them neutrons. And so that's what I classified myself as, a neutron. So that granted me pass to school each day back and forth. And what ends up happening is my mom, unbeknownst to me, she's got a new boyfriend when I come home one day. And this guy, things changed. Now the dishes have to be done. Now the laundry has to be taken out. I mean, I was pretty much a slave. I mean, without the tag, I was pretty much, hey, do this, do this, do this. And when she get home from work, I'd fix her drinks. You know, her cocktail, as she liked to call it. You know, 2 ice cubes and a splash of Bacardi. And she's up in her room, closes the door. That's my relationship with my mom.
Man.
And so I get to say, hey, I'm going out. But now this guy's here. He wants me on a curfew. So, hey, I got to be in at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock. Whereas before I didn't have a curfew because she's usually knocked out. And so we end up not seeing eye to eye. And one of the things that was the turning point was we had got, you know, I had started getting into fights at school and stuff. And so I was being disciplined at school a lot. And what ended up happening was I ended up getting a fight. Him and his partner pulled over and said, hey, get in the car. What are you doing fighting? But in my mind, it was a direct result of, hey, I have short patience. I have short tolerance to what's going on around me. And what ends up happening is I ended up, they have a suburb in Chicago, and it's called Evanston. So we used to go out there and steal bikes and come back, part them out, and, you know, steal bikes. And so as we started parting out bikes and stuff, people would trade us weed for you know, parts, or, you know, a part or a tool or something like that. And I ended up started smoking weed. And when I started smoking weed, I felt a relief, but then we had to get something else. Something else had to be added to that. So I started drinking, and they had a alcohol out there at the time. It was called white port. And all you had to do was add Kool-Aid to it. And so it made it taste sweet to the palate. So me and about 3 or 4 of my guys, we get together, and we find, you know, like some type of somebody that was drunk or drinking, and I give them a couple of bucks to buy them a bottle, and they bought us a bottle.
Nice.
And so yeah, nice. So that was the beginning. That was the beginning. And of course, smoking weed and drinking just wasn't enough. So now what we do is we do something called it's parachuting. So what we do, we take a hit of weed and get grabbed by our chest, and they hold the weed in, and then they let us go. So that give you a loss of consciousness to your brain. So when you get when somebody takes you out of the restraints or the hold that they got around you, you lost oxygen in your brain. So usually what happens was somebody would either fall out trying to get on their feet, or you know, like be stunned, because it was so much intake. And so what was funny, I had a good time with this one. I had a partner, his name was Ice. And so I grabbed him. He took a big hit of weed, so I grabbed him and let him go. And where we were getting high at, there was some fences. And so he went and grabbed for the fence, but missed and fell down. And me and a couple other guys just clowned him, and he was just like, you know, that ain't funny. He said, that shit ain't funny. He fell on the ground, pissed himself. He said, that shit ain't funny. But at the time, hell, that worked for me.
It was funny.
You know, I was like, okay, well, here we go. Now this is good. People are pissing on themselves. People are, falling up, grabbing off the fence, and okay, this is great stuff. And so, fast forward a little bit. So what was happening was I wasn't obeying the rules of the house from her boyfriend. And so we'd get into some heated discussions or heated conversation. And so one thing that happened to me that kind of like I kind of lost respect for my mom after this one. I was sleeping and I woke up to a belt being hit with a belt. And so I'm wondering what, I don't know if it's what's going on. So I'm thinking maybe I'm having in a bad dream or a bad moment. And come to find out, this man's beating me with a belt out of my sleep. And the reason for this was I left the TV on.
Jesus.
I was floored. And so I had to ask, I was really curious about, damn, is electricity that expensive? Is things that expensive? And what ends up happening it was that expensive, is he had hate for me.
Yeah.
Because once again, he's not having my mom's full attention, and I'm in the way. And so as a result of me being in the way, I finally one day I went up to and asked my mom, I said, hey, why are you letting this man beat me? What's going on? And he said, well, you need to be disciplined because you acted up in school. I said, okay, but why are you letting this man beat me? And finally, after about 2 or 3 times of asking her that, she finally told me. She said, T, get over it. I said, get over it? How am I going to get over somebody beat you? Nobody beat you out of your sleep. Well, T, quit leaving the TV on. So I tried that for a minute, but ultimately, I ended up leaving the TV on again. And so what ends up happening is my dad, which is in jail at this time, he called his brother, which was in Seattle, and said, did I want to come up there for the summer? And so I said, yeah, I'd love to. I'd love to get out of this beating. And so I ended up going down there for the summer, which is where I'm at now in Washington. I came, told my mom, hey, I'm not coming back. I don't want to be up there anymore. She said, what about your clothes? I said that, if I've got some worth having, you can ship them to me with the rest of it. I don't really care. I'm just not coming back there to him. And it was, hey, everything went fine. I ended up leaving, never coming back. And I found out later that him and my mom broke up shortly after that, and so that kind of soured our relationship between a son and a son and his mother. That relationship was really, really rocky at that point.
Right.
And so I came up here in the state of Washington, and I was probably going about $170 to everybody around here doing about 35. So I got into trouble immediately as soon as I got up here. I was driving my cousin's moped. They pulled me over. Hey, what are you doing? Hey, you got license? No. This is my car. Did you steal it? And I, me being from Chicago, I'm trying to talk my way out of the situation, which was not the wisest of choices. But what ends up happening was my cousin came and said, hey, this is mine, and get off of them. So fast forward to high school, still off the hook behavior. I wasn't getting it. Still smoking weed. Still drinking at this time. And I ended up stopping. I think I ended up stopping for about a month because they told me if I graduated, they'd throw me a big party. So
okay. Motivation.
Yeah, that was motivation. So I put everything down for a minute. I said, okay, well, let me see how this works. But as soon as I graduated, it's right back to the do. Getting high and stuff. And I ended up graduating from high school and doing that thing. And I ended up moving in with one of my cousins on the flip side of my family. And I ended up staying out with her. I ended up going to work, working at Red Robin as a janitor at night. And I'm getting a relationship with a girlfriend of mine's. First girlfriend I really had, first real relationship I thought I had. And I was coming home from work one day, and I saw her and my cousin in the apartment. And so they were playing video games, and I asked her, I said, what are you guys doing here? He goes, I'm just playing games with your cousin. I said, well, you guys have been spending quite a bit of time together. And so at that point, not having any people skills or social skills, I told her to get out and slammed the door in her face.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah. Oh, rough. Just really rough. Oh, really, really rough. And so he ends up leaving, running right, chasing her down the street, and they end up staying together for about a month and a half. And so at that time, I figured, oh, my gosh, what's going on with me? Something's not right. And I still just couldn't put the finger on what was wrong with me. Something's not right with me. Why did my first relationships not work? Something's going on. And so what I ended up finding out was it wasn't me. I needed to do some more drugs. I wasn't the problem, right? So let me go get some more drugs. Oh, no, I'm not the problem. Oh, no, it never could be me. And so I ended up hooking up with one of the guys in high school, and he had introduced me to something called crack.
Oh, man.
Oh, yeah, it was on then. Oh, let's have some fun with life now. And so I ended up smoking it, and it wasn't really, the first time I took a hit, I wasn't really, maybe I didn't have enough, or, maybe this didn't really do it for me. So I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe this isn't the drug for me. Maybe I need to get something else. And so I ended up, not touching that for a while because I didn't really know where to get it at, or it wasn't really like the big thing for me where I have to get drugs. It wasn't really dependent on that. So going back, I ended up, sticking with the weed for a while and having that work for me for a minute. And what ends up happening is I ended up moving out of there with my cousin because she started trying to charge me too much rent. And so I ended up getting into a place with a couple of friends of mine that were, I guess we call closet smokers, people that did smoke, but they didn't appear to be somebody that smoked.
Gotcha. Uh-huh.
Yeah, so we would sit there and get high for amounts of time. And then I finally started feeling the effects like, okay, now this isn't bad. Now I like this. And I stopped. Once again, I ended up stopping and end up going back flirting with it a few more times. And what ends up happening is I ended up wanting to be the dope man, cash my check out and, I'm going to get as much dope as I can get. And so I ended up getting a lot of dope. And I ended up hooking up with some family members. And we ended up, I ended up selling dope for a minute there. And it wasn't really my thing. But what ended up happening was this is the first time in my life that I was able to control all aspects. So there I was giving somebody that smoked dope a hit just to sit down and listen to all my problems.
Right.
Hey, man. And they like, yeah, I get it, man. And yeah, that makes sense and all that. And so the next thing I know, it made so much sense to me that a hit didn't sound bad either. I'm going to really feel good now. I'm going to take me a hit of my own product. And what ends up happening after that, I can't say I was successful because you're never successful using your product and selling it. There's never any success in that. Let me not kid myself with that. And so I ended up, I ended up wanting to just spend my time just smoking. And so I ended up having a few people that I was able to, in the streets, I was able to make a few connections, smoke a little, and just keep above water. And what ends up happening is I ended up getting found out. One of my family members found out that I was officially a smoker, is what they call them, is a smoker. And I was officially a crack smoker. And so now, he's a crack smoker. Now it's time to, do something. Let's do a little intervention on him. So they end up taking me to treatment, telling me, hey, you need to get some treatment and we'll get you some help, which we always love to hear. Somebody cares about us and they're going to get us some help. So I ended up getting some help. And coming right back out after, a 21-day program, going right back straight. This time, I thought I would do it different. I wouldn't take a hit, but I'd buy the bag, but I wouldn't smoke my product after the results of me smoking the product got me into treatment. So I said, okay, this time we're not going to get high. We're going to successfully sell our product, which worked for the first 5 or 10 days. And then one day I had a group of people just coming by my house on a consistent basis. And so I'm like, this must be some good dope because everybody's just chasing me down the street for this. And it's the next thing I know, I'm back into the do. And after that, Omar, it was just a vicious cycle. Treatment after treatment, relationship after relationship with people I wish I would have never met. Catching a case, and ended up doing some time in jail.
Catching a case?
Yeah, going to jail.
Okay, is that what it's called?
Delivery. Catching the delivery, and I ended up going to jail, and that didn't do it for me. And then one jail sentence after another. Still didn't get it. And so what ends up happening is someone told me that, hey, you need to change something. And so I'm thinking to myself, change what? I'm successful here. I get to go get high and then go to jail and come back out. Is this not successful life or what? If this isn't a life that the movies were made out of and, short stories are made out of, I don't know what is, right?
Right.
This is my life. Oh, what a great life. And so what ends up happening is another treatment center. And I end up meeting a girl that I have a son by. And she told me, she said, I want to help you. I don't want to see you get high. I don't want to see you do drugs anymore. And so I said, oh, my gosh, here's my savior. She's going to make sure my life's going to change for the best. And, of course, that didn't work out. I ended up getting high, ended up leaving my kid, ended up, doing all these things that were pretty vicious. But what ends up happening, and this is kind of my turning point in my addiction, was my uncle, the one that originally had me sent up here, which is my dad's brother, just had me come to Washington to begin with. Mm-hmm. He was in jail. He got caught doing some stuff. And so I ended up staying with him. And I had just got out of treatment for I don't know how many of time. And I got out of treatment. He said, hey, I need somebody to watch the house and be the man of the house. And I said, oh, great. I get a chance to, redeem myself. And a friend of his friend came by and gave my aunt some money. And my addiction just came out of nowhere. And I seen how much money he gave her, where it was put, and I stole it. I stole a piece of it. So I would, and then of course, how they say help you look for it. Oh yeah, I was there helping her look for it.
Of course.
Yeah. Oh, what a great guy I was, right?
Uh-huh.
Oh, let me help you out. Oh, it's not there. It must be over here. Oh, it's not over there. It must be over here. And what ends up happening, and that was on my men's list, I got an opportunity to tell her once I did my 12-step. I got a chance to tell her, hey, I was the one that stole your money. I was the one that went in your purse and took your $100. I was that person. And, she told me, she said, I already knew.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I knew. But she said, thank you. She said, thank you for telling me that. And I want to tell you about this program of Narcotics Anonymous. If that wasn't the best feeling I ever had in my life, that was at least in the top 10 of them. To actually hear that what I've done in my life affected someone else, which I didn't think it did because I was never around anybody. My family members when I was getting high, and I didn't think they cared enough about me to miss me. But she actually let me know that meant something to her. And that was one of my things that I had to make amends for after doing my step. But getting back to that kind of changed. That kind of let me know I had a problem. that's probably the first time in my addiction I knew I had a problem when I stole from a family member. And that kind of slowed me down a little bit. Didn't stop me. But I want to just tell you about what stopped me. I ended up going to jail for the umpteenth time. And I had got my second baby's mom pregnant. And we were sitting together and so on and so forth. And she told me, she said, I'm pregnant. I said, oh, my gosh, you are? She said, yeah, I'm pregnant. And I'm going to keep the baby, And I was getting high, but I had gotten to be a professional where I could get high and mask it with smoking marijuana or drinking, but I was pretty much smoking crack. And she told me, she said, I'm pregnant and I need you to be there for our son. And I was looking at some time. I had already committed another crime, so I was looking at some time anyway. And so what I ended up doing was I ended up turning myself in because I had got a lawyer. I had a prison director, which they call public defenders, but I call them prison directors because you're going to prison.
Yeah.
They're just going to direct you which are you going to go to, the county or the penitentiary. Oof. So I call them prison directors. And so I ended up getting some money and ended up hiring an attorney. And it still didn't change the outcome. After having an extensive criminal history, it didn't really change the outcome of that at all. They had already, had lunch and figured out this is what we're going to do with them anyway. So, hey, we don't have time for that. So this is what's going to end up happening. And so as a result of that, I ended up doing some time and about 2 years and some change, and I ended up coming out. And I thought that everything was over. I thought that I had got it together. I got a son and I had to end up going to work release. And I figured, I stopped. I didn't get into any fights. I didn't get high. I didn't do anything. So I'm going to get out here with a clean slate. And so what ends up happening was when I got out, I got out of work release, and she said, well, hey, I got a place. I want us to move in together. So I moved in with her. And I just tell you how things work. She ended up going to I wasn't familiar with this drug. She ended up going into the bathroom quite a bit. And so one day I asked her, I said, what are you doing in the damn bathroom? You've been in the bathroom for quite a long time. But in my mind, the only person I saw in the bathroom was people that were getting high on crack, but I didn't smell that familiar smell of crack. Unbeknownst to me, she was doing meth. I didn't know. It didn't have a smell like a pungent smell like crack did or weed did. It didn't have like that pungent smell like, okay, this is drugs. This is what drugs smell like, or heroin, or nothing like bam, bam, bam that really got you. And so I had just seen her going in there month after month. And so by this time, I didn't have any probation. So I stayed clean, but I was white knuckling. I didn't go to meetings. I didn't do anything. So I just sit there in the room and just watched her, took care of my kids. And shortly after, I had got curious. I said, put me together something. Let me taste that. I want to see how that works.
Ooh.
Yeah. So let me try that. But here, I just tell you how good God is. I had a chemical imbalance in my head where I never got high off the stuff. So I had like brain chemistry. I forgot how the doctor explained it to me, but I had suffered from something in my brain that it didn't give me the effect that it gave everybody else the effect of, where they were rummaging through stuff and all this.
Yeah.
It just had me focus. I was able to sit there and actually focus on stuff and actually get stuff done. And so it didn't really have that adverse effect on me. But what ended up happening was, to keep up with her in the relationship, I figured I'd have to, I know how this works after my, long stints of being a drug addict or practicing drug activity. I thought that I would be able to somehow, if I used with her, somehow we'd be able to fix each other.
Mm-hmm.
Let's fix each other. Maybe I can tell you, hey, we're going to go to treatment. Oh my gosh. How many times I could write a book, how many times we planned treatment and, how we got our clothes together, who's going to watch the kids. We're going to do this. We're going to do that. And what ends up happening is she ended up getting pregnant again. And as a result of that, she was using still. And I told her, I said, hey, I got to get into treatment. And I told her, I said, I can't do this. I cannot sit around and hear you and see you use drugs with my kid in your stomach. I just can't be around you. I'm going to go crazy. And so at that point, I ended up going back with one of my ex-girlfriends. I ended up leaving her and the kids because to me, I was in no value to either one of my kids, and she had already had a plan, which I thought would work best with her and the kids rather than me and the kids, because they weren't really accepting, like, hey, I guess, this big black guy with this little small white girl, and he's probably going to take advantage of her any chance she gets. And and so it was a stigma of, okay, I'm a big black guy, he's going to do something to me, or he's threatening. And by that time I got a piss poor attitude, not to, I really not, like, not the kind of person you want to be around anyway, because I'm not really the kind of person that, that's really there to, like, encourage you or make you feel good about things. I'm wanting to look for ways to get high.
Right.
And so they felt that, and they told me, hey, either you're going to go into treatment either we're going to take her and the kids, or you got to go. And I already knew how that was. So I ended up leaving. And so, which was the best situation. I ended up moving in with my ex-girlfriend, and I stayed with her for a couple of years. And while I saw my kids on the weekend, and we ended up working it out. And that was probably one of my hardest parts of my addiction, because I knew I had kids in the game, and I knew I was supposed to be a father at some point. And being without my kids was probably the worst feeling I ever had. And to know that you brought people into this world and that you weren't part of their life, you weren't part of their lives anymore. And that kind of helped situate me, like move me out of my comfort zone, because I wanted to see them every day. And then finally, she had my daughter, but as a result of her using drugs, my daughter had to spend 10 days, and what is I forget what it's called. It's,
ICU?
For the kids with the drugs that have
probably
drugs in their system.
It could be just an intensive care unit for something like that, where it's intense.
It's intense. And so the doctor, she wasn't able to see me because she was in treatment, so she wasn't able to see my daughter every day. But I made sure I made it up there. Weed and drink before I had to smoke weed before I got up there. I drank when I got back, but I just had to have something to kind of numb my pain that I was feeling. I didn't know what would numb it. So I just chose to stick with the marijuana at the end. And what really hurt me was the nurse said, hey, maybe if you can sit here and hold her, we won't have to shoot her up with this morphine, and give her like 0.5 cc's of morphine just to kind of stabilize her. And they said that we had no choice but to give her this morphine. And
this was your daughter.
Yeah, the one that just came out.
Oh,
yeah, and God. So in my mind, I'm thinking, oh wow. So me being here for her wasn't enough. So you're still gonna have to give her the morphine. And she said, unfortunately, we have to give her the morphine. And so I stayed there that whole day and night, and I really cried. I first time, even with the marijuana, you still felt something so, it just hurt so bad that me being there and me not giving her the love that she needed, it wasn't enough. She still needed the drugs. And that really, really, really started breaking down those, like those selfish ways and selfish ego and pride that I had about just me, because I didn't have like that influence of someone crying and saying, hey, I need you, without them being able to speak to you, but crying and saying, hey, I need you here for me. And so holding her, changing her diapers, hearing her cry all times of the morning, picking her up, putting diaper rash all over her, and just being there for her. And she ends up getting that ends up going on for about 10 days. She ends up leaving. I end up going back to, I'm still staying with my ex, and me and her try to work it out, but she's not really ready to give up her lifestyle. And so I told her, hey, I can't be with you anymore, because for me, it doesn't work out because I'm going to use drugs, even though it doesn't get me high. I'm going to use them just to be around you. And so, anyway, that went on for another year, and she was mad at me because I went back with my ex. Yeah, that was really, is even thinking about it right now as I'm talking to you about this kind of brings back those old memories of, wow, what lessons in life were necessary for you to be who you are today. There's just some you just don't escape, and, sometimes I wish it was a softer and gentler way to do it, but obviously that's just not how life works. And so, I ended up, having a few interactions with her here and there. And, I was going back to my ex. She drinks like, 2 or 3 times a week, but being with her, cause this woman, I just kind of give you a little insight on who I was staying with. This woman, she had suffered a brain aneurysm. So when you're talking, she's talking. So nobody's listening. It's all talking. And the only time she listens, I just listen to, I just be listening to listen. Listening to hear, not listen to understand with her anymore.
Right.
Because I figured that something was seriously wrong with her brain. And one morning, this went on for about 2 years. And one morning I woke up and something just hit me. Because I was drinking 2 tall cans a day, 7 days a week. I mean, smoking weed when I could afford it. But what ends up hitting me one day is I ended up talking to the guy. Just when I started drawing on the computer. I was talking to this guy, and he said, hey, maybe you want to get into this guy's doing a business seminar or plan or something. Maybe you want to go in there because I saw your stuff on the computer. And so I had bought the program. I started, getting on the computer just to stay away from her because I didn't want to hear from her every day, 7 days a week. So I put the headphones on and play on my computer. Right. And so what ends up happening is I end up making some stuff, and I started looking at the stuff on the computer, and I started saying, damn, this isn't bad. I mean, what I got here, this isn't bad. And I started, like, all the trauma and all the stuff that I went through in my childhood kind of came out in my drawings and kind of came out with my my art. And I was like, oh my gosh, I finally got somewhere I can escape. I finally get a chance to escape somewhere. So I get my tall can, I get a beer and drink and sit here at the computer and just draw. And I tell you, when I first started, I'd get some clip art and just paste something on there with some words. And to me, a bowl of weed and a big tall can, everything was great. I had arrived. I had arrived. I didn't want to share my artwork. I thought I had the hottest artwork out there. I thought I had all the hottest. Oh no, but everybody's going to want this. And what ended up happening is I ended up somehow persevering. I ended up going downtown Seattle because I had to get out of where I was at. And I caught the bus, and I saved my images on a USB drive. And so what I ended up doing was I ended up getting them printed on the sheets and then going to FedEx Kinko and laminating them. And so when I get on the bus on the way back from Seattle to it was in Lakewood, I just watch them and look at the art and go, oh my gosh, I got to get better. I got to get better. I got to get better. And I just was telling myself that somehow, some way, I was just impressing on myself. I'm going to get better at this. I'm going to get better at this. But I just got to keep doing it. I got to keep doing it. I don't have to be great to get started, but I got to start to be great. I don't have to be great to get started, but I got to start to be great. And I just kept going. And I just started seeing, as I started, diving into those books, when I could hold my 2 thoughts together, I dive in those books, get a little insight, and go back to drawing. And so finally, what ends up happening is me and this woman that I was staying with, I woke up one morning and I looked at her and went to the mirror and looked at myself and go, what the hell am I doing here? I got to do something. So I ended up trying treatment again. I ended up going to treatment for like about 10 days. And I ended up not wanting to stay there because I was looking for any excuse to get out of there because I knew she was my enabler. First time in my life, I have an enabler. She'll come pick me up because she wants me to act there with her. And I know this. And I know when I get out of here, I can go back smoking weed and drinking. I know I can do this, right? And so I ended up getting a problem with one of my roommates there. And he was talking about me in the line. And I asked him, I said, are you talking about me? He said, yeah. I said, because you're snoring and all. I said, man, don't come out here and talk about me snoring. And, so there was my excuse to leave. So I took it. So I left. And I went back business as usual. Let's smoke weed. Let's drink. And I ended up coming out and I ended up feeling that way again. I was like, oh, I got to get out of here. And so I ended up going back to treatment again. But this time they had me in a treatment where they locked us down 7 days a week. We only get to come out for like an hour and a half a day. In the outside world, they just wanted to lock us down into a treatment center. And I just couldn't take it because it reminded me of prison so much. So I ended up leaving there. And so it took me another 2-3 months to get out of that. And I went back to talk to the lady that hooks people up with the treatment center, case management worker. And I tried that for the 2 months, kind of lackadaisical, not really wanting to do it.
Right.
But I told everybody I'm going back to treatment. I'm really working hard to get it. But in actually, I'm working for shit. I ain't trying to get into treatment. I'm just telling I'm pacifying everybody. Oh, yeah, I'm doing this. I'm doing that. And come to find out, she ends up telling me that we're not going to be able to help you. So finally, I hear the news. So I end up finally going to another treatment center. And I was able to get in. And the lady, the first time I went in, the lady remembered me. Her name was Carmen. I never forget her. She remembered me. She says, oh, hi, Torrance. She was from the Philippines. Oh, hi, Torrance. It's so good to see you. How are you? And
that's pretty good.
Hey, that's all I needed. Again, Omar, that's all I needed.
Right. Was
just that much acceptance and just that much presence of, hey, you're back. You're here again. It's so good to see you. And that time I ended up staying. It was a 28-day program. It was KRC, Kids Out Recovery Center. And I ended up staying. I ended up staying and I got out. I went into a transitional housing when I got out.
Right.
I wanted to go back and live with her. This is how sick I was. But what ends up happening, as a matter of fact, I had to start there to begin with. I got out, and this is what really made me leave her. She knew I was coming home that night, and she bought her a bottle of gin.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, yeah. Celebrate.
Man.
Put the bottle of gin right there. Let's celebrate. And the first thing, my addict in me was like, oh, my gosh, well, I have to go get 2 beers. That's how I usually did it, right? And this time, just standing there listening to her and her, her mannerisms and how she was conducting her life and looking around the place that I was living that I call home before, the 28-day treatment. I was like, oh, man, I got to do something better than this. I don't think my life's just cut. I don't think I'm cut out for this. This isn't who I am. What the ringer was I got up that morning and I had a choice. I think my higher power gave me a choice. He said, hey, she got a little there, not my higher power, but the lower power said, hey, you know what? Listen to this. Look at that alcohol that's in there. You can pick that up and take a drink and nobody would know. It's clear alcohol. Have a drink. Go ahead. Because I'm going to throw out the recycle. So have a drink. Go ahead. I thought to myself, man, that's not a bad idea. And so as I was taking out the recycle, I was still looking at this little bit of alcohol in there. And I was just asking myself, oh my gosh, I want to drink so bad. And it finally ended up going into the garbage. And I go, oh, good. Now I can leave here. So I ended up working, saving up 2 checks. And they wanted to deposit on the transitional house. I gave them the deposit. So I ended up going to transitional housing. I stayed there for like 2 months. And then one of the guys from the rooms of NA told me, he said, hey, man, if you mess up here, you got 24 hours to leave. And some of the people that were there with me, I wasn't getting along with because I was still discovering what Torrance is like in recovery, what he's like with a sober breath. I was like, oh, my gosh, this is who I am. And if I didn't have a problem with letting you in, but I had a problem with letting me out. So, I got to watch out who I am. And if I let this part of me out, I might get kicked out of here. So I ended up moving in with another guy in another transitional situation. and getting out of there. End up signing up for another program. You pay the rent, but they put a portion of your rent together so you can put a down payment on an apartment, which I'm in today. And so at that point, I finally got a chance to be to myself. You know, I actually have it's just a studio apartment, but I'm by myself.
Right.
And I think that's what had to happen to me ultimately. I had to be somewhere where I was by myself. And so I actually look at myself in the mirror. I didn't have to be questioned about where I'm going, what I'm doing. If you go into the store, give me a pack of cigarettes. If you go in the store, go get me a beer or alcohol, you know, something. Where are you going? How long are you going to be gone? I mean, it just wasn't any questions. And what not being questioned came responsibilities like paying rent, paying your internet, paying your cell phone, you know. Kind of being welcome back to reality, Torrance.
Not even welcome back. Not even welcome back. Here's reality, brother.
Here it is. And here I am today. Like, wow, this is what happens. I ended up going to doing some work because I started believing in myself a little bit stronger. And I ended up going to work and saving money. Was able to put a down payment down on my equipment. Just started paying on that. I'm still paying on the equipment that I have, but I started believing in myself, and something inside of me started believing in myself. And I started out with the Photoshop program and started working with that. And then I moved up to something called Corel, and I moved up to that, started drawing with that. And the next thing I know, I revisited the guy that helped me before. He said, he asked me, he said, "What's your niche?" I said, "I'm going to start doing recovery shirts." Just off the top of my head, I'm saying, I'm going to do recovery shirts. And in my mind this time, I started actually having a little bit of belief and I could do it. And so I started going online and started looking at other places that did recovery. But unfortunately, what doesn't give me the buzz, like most people that have recovery shirts, is I don't have the NA logo. And right. I didn't want the stigma to me. And it's not a bad thing. It's just my choice. Was I wanted to do my own stuff without needing approval for this image to go through or needing approval for that or this.
Absolutely.
And so I started seeing other people doing the same thing. So I wasn't the only one. And so I started checking out websites, started looking at other people's stuff that did recovery shirts. And I started thinking, okay, I can do this. So little by little, I just started putting together stuff. And the next thing I know, it took me about 10 days to learn how to use this vinyl plotter, because they have another program that comes with it. It's called Great Cuts, and it's a CAD program that you have to learn. So it took me about 10 days to do that. I don't know how many hundreds of dollars worth of vinyl I messed up, but oh my gosh, you want to talk about a frustrating part of life? It's frustrating. I can't believe this happened to me again. You know. I should have known how to do this by now. I was mad. I talk about 10 days of frustration. That was a bad thing. But as a result of that, I ended up learning how to use the program, the Great Cuts. Learn how to use Corel, which is what's used for the plotter / vinyl. And that usually the images that you see on here on my webpage, they're all done in vinyl. So none of it's silk screened. I was able to finally go, you know what, let's just dig in there and get my imagination going. So I spent a lot of time researching, kind of looking at, listening in the rooms, what people say in the rooms about recovery and what they what turns in their life have shaped their recovery. What do I think about recovery? And as a result of that, kind of a mix of that and what I hear in the rooms, and that's what you see on my web page. It's kind of a mix of everything, you know. And I'm grateful for the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous. I'm grateful for being able to get on this show and actually tell you about my story. It's been a long road, and 2 years and 4 months later, this is what I got.
And it is a miracle, brother. It is an absolute beautiful miracle.
It is, brother. It is.
Just a quick intro to how Torrance and I met. Torrance and I met at the Seattle convention that I spoke at.
Yes.
That's how we connected. We started talking over there, and I saw some of his work, and it's just such a miracle to see and to hear a story and to know that from that has been able to come such beauty, such recovery, such a connection with a higher power that you and I have never had before. It didn't come until we actually made it into these rooms where we were actually able to connect with a higher power and to just create. When I look at these T-shirts and I look at the design work and the creativity behind it, and think about what it took to what you had to go through to be able to come up with these ideas, it was a long, treacherous road to recovery.
Yes.
Early in recovery for me, there was a lot of regret, a lot of shame, guilt, shame, remorse that I had for so many things that I did. But as I started to really embrace the program, I started to realize that everything that I had gone through, I had to go through it to become the person that I am today, because I can use everything that happened to me now, everything, to help other people.
And Omar, when you spoke and you were telling your story, I was amazed that you had came so far. And I was like, my gosh, if that's what recovery looks like years later, I want in. I want in. I want in. And I saw that, and we spoke briefly about the podcast, and I heard you say it, and I was thinking to myself, I go, a podcast? I've never heard. I don't even know what that is. And now being on your show today and hearing what it is and the good work you do for the recovery community, it's great stuff. It's really great stuff, and I am really honored to be able to be on the show and be able to tell my story, and to hopefully someone understands this and gets something out of this, and know that dreams are possible, and you don't necessarily have to work for someone. You can actually create your own stuff, and that's what we got.
I've interviewed other people that have been in jail, okay? I have more than one success story of guys that have gotten out of prison, women that have gotten out of prison, women that were dealing drugs and were repeat offenders that have a felony conviction on their record that they have to disclose whenever they go look for another job or look for a job, okay? And they talk about how my life is over. That's where they thought they were when they got into recovery. It's like, what am I going to do? How am I going to get a job? What am I going to do? And they've all overcome and persevered. Either they opened their own business, or the fact that they were in there and faced this adversity and got through it. In other words, it helped them more than it hindered them. Right? They were honest about it. Whoever they spoke to say, hey, listen, this is what I've been through. I've got a criminal conviction. This is what don't worry about it. We're going to give you a shot here. But I truly believe that if you are connected with your higher power, if you're working a rigorous program, and if you are helping others, then all that stuff is inconsequential. All of it. You will find your way.
It doesn't seem that, Omar, it didn't really seem that way. If you'd have told me, hey, you keep doing what you're doing, you'll find your way. It didn't seem that way. The only time I actually had a hint of, if you do it this way, you're going to get this, and this is going to happen to you, is when once again, my favorite thing is approval by others. I had to see other people saying, hey, what you got going on here, this is pretty good stuff. Keep going. And I think somehow, some way, your higher power puts those people in front of you so they can kind of give you that little nudge in case you forgot this is what you're supposed to be doing. And those little nudges and those little, hey, this is, I like what you're doing. I like your stuff. Keep going. That actually helped me out quite a bit, because I wanted to say, hey, nobody's buying this stuff. This stuff, I ain't going to make it. This is a waste of time. Because that's what came natural to me. What came natural to me was, I'm going to fail. I'm going to fail. And what ended up happening was I ended up going into rooms, realizing I wasn't the only one with a problem. I often say this in the room sometimes, that the only reason I go to these meetings is because I need to know sometimes I'm not the only one with this problem, and it's really good to be able to hear people that are like me, because one of the things when I got here, I was so busy looking for the differences. I didn't even know what a similarity was,
Right.
I wanted to say, okay, hey, because of this, this ain't right for me. I wanted to just find, hey, I got to be in the wrong place. So let me try AA, let me try CA, let me try my way, And what ends up happening is I end up staying around and started to listen. Started listening to people around me that shared the similar problems. And then I realized it wasn't really a problem. It was a different interpretation of life. And I think I've interpreted life the way I've interpreted it, and actually getting a chance to see other people interpret their lives and see that they have actually overcome some of the things that I thought I would never overcome really helped me by being in those rooms. It's really helped me out quite a bit.
No question about it. No question about it. It's the same thing for me. It's the same thing for so many. And the most important takeaway from all that is that we cannot do this alone.
No, not at all.
No question about it, man. No question about it. All right, Torrance. Well, we're going to start winding things down here. We're getting close to the end of the show. I want to ask you 5 questions about your early recovery, and I want you to respond with some inspiring and insightful answers you can share with our newcomers. Are you ready?
Yes.
All right, let's do this. So number 1, initially, what was keeping you from getting clean or staying clean when you first got introduced to recovery?
I had an enabler. I had someone that I knew in the back of my head that I was able to go back to. I knew that if, times were tough or I was in a pinch, I could go back. And so that was one of my difficulties.
Yep.
I had an enabler, and it wasn't the most glorious enabler, but I had an enabler. I had a place to lay my head down at.
Enabler, man. They tell you, man. Every addict has, leave every addict the dignity of his own bottom, because as long as he can reach for someone or something, we will keep going.
We will.
That's for sure. All right. So number 2, at what point did you have a spiritual awakening, that aha moment in recovery when you accepted that you were powerless over drugs and alcohol, but for the first time had developed the hope that you could recover?
The first time I had a spiritual awakening was when I did when I got a sponsor, and he told me that we're going to be able to do the steps. We're going to admit that I was powerless over drugs, and then my life had become unmanageable. And that's when I believe I had my spiritual awakening, because I finally realized that my life had become unmanageable. This is real. We're going to actually put pen to paper, and I'm going to actually have to relive and deal with some of the stuff that's inside of me. And that's when I said, oh my gosh, here we go. It's just real. No, it's real. Now it's real. Oh, wow, I'm here. I'm in recovery now. It's real. Now I get a chance to get some of this stuff out of me. Okay. Yeah, it's just real now.
We all have our cross to bear when it comes to that, man. But the beautiful part of the whole thing is that eventually you were able to let the magic happen, man. Let the miracle unfold in your life.
Yes. Yes.
And that's what's important. So number 3, Torrance, do you have a favorite book you would recommend to our newcomers that you read in early recovery?
Let me think. Where's that? It's called The Secret.
Ah, The Secret. Love that book. Actually, I saw the movie.
Yeah. Did you? How was it? How was the movie?
It's good. It's good. You should check it out, man. I'm not a big reader, but it's I believe in the law of attraction, man. There's no question about it. What you conceive, you can achieve. So I'm 100% behind you on that one.
Don't get me wrong. I have the big book. I have the Living Clean. But what for me, I needed more. I need, because I feel like, being in the gym, you do your chest, but you also got to do your back too. And those rooms are only, good for me for maybe 3 hours. Maybe you get 2 meetings. So you're probably looking at 3 hours, but the rest of your time by yourself, you kind of want something. For me, I wanted more. I wanted something more. I kind of wanted to make up for lost time, but then I thought, okay, I can't make up for lost time. So what I can do is find out how life works. And that kind of gave me a little insight of how life works. And if you manifest something and, don't look for the how, don't be caught up on the how, just look at it can be done. Don't look at the how. And I had to get out of that. Don't look at the how, because I'm so used to, okay, here's $20. This is how I'm going to get high. I got $20. I know I'm going to get high. This is the how, and unfortunately, that's not how this works. And as a result of doing that, looking in that book and reading it, I end up I have a vision board on my wall back here. And as I'm looking at it right now, I probably missing only let's see, 1, 2 things off the vision board. I'm only missing, no, actually 3 things off the vision board. Everything else I got.
It works, man. It's that the power of intention, those vision boards, it's a daily practice of connecting with, with the universe. Right. And, it's all just waiting for you, but I'm also a strong proponent of faith without works is dead. You got to put in the work. You got to do the work, but the results I can leave in the hands of my higher power and also to the universe.
Yes.
I'm down with that. Okay. Yes. Great suggestion. So number 4, what is the best suggestion you have ever received?
From someone in the rooms? Or just
in your life, in your life.
Okay. I have a few, but this one kind of hit me in the head as soon as you said that. Guy used to tell me, tighten up every chance you get. A guy used to say this to me in prison every time I saw him. Tighten it up every chance you get. If you see room in your life for improvement and somebody's giving you a suggestion, take it. And then another one that I had to stuck out with me was don't have a poor mentality on life. I said, poor mentality on life. I felt offended when the person said that to me. And he said, no, I want to be very clear with you. Don't have a poor mentality off life. And I said, okay, I get that. You said that before. Say it again. I said, what is it? Does poor mean something? Or, what are you trying to get across? And he said, yes, I am. Poor does mean something. It says to pass over opportunities repeatedly. And boy, that stuck with me. Oh, that stuck with me. I can't have a poor mentality. Oh my God. It's easy to have.
That is awesome.
Oh my gosh. And I was like, oh, I thought I had arrived. That's the key to those are the magic words to the universe, but it was something I needed at the time. And I heard that and that stuck with me.
Well, so repeat it one more time.
Don't have a poor mentality, meaning to pass over opportunities repeatedly.
Pass over. I got to write this down, dude. This is awesome. I love this. This is gold.
Yeah.
Pass over opportunities repeatedly. And man, how many times have we done that in our lives?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, man. Oh my gosh.
Because opportunities are presented to us every single day. The question is, are you paying attention?
Are you paying attention? Because for me, I always wanted to question, was that for me? Was that for me or is that somebody else? I think that was for you. You might want to remember what was told to you a long time ago. And another one, the guy taught me this, and he didn't teach me this. I heard this, and he said there's 2 type of people in this world. There's two type of career paths you can choose. Either you can work for someone that believed in their dreams, or work for yourself and believe in your own dreams. I never forgot that either.
I love that. That's more like either a Tony Robbins or a Hal Elrod. That sounds like
no. I don't think those came from either one of those guys. It might have. But,
they might have repeated it.
Yeah,
I've heard that one, and I love that one, man.
I loved it. I was like, oh my gosh, she's so right, because I don't have to worry about you saying, hey, pack your stuff up, you got to go.
Correct.
We've run out of, hey, we don't have no more work for the day. We found somebody else that can do your job better than you for a cheaper price. and that just kind of like, I held on to that. Some of the things that you hear in life, you just hold on to. And that helped me out too. So there's a few of them.
All right. Now, you just said these three right here. If you could give a newcomer only one suggestion, what would it be?
Oh, that's really easy. Know that it gets better. Know that each day you put in, it's going to be better. It's going to get better. And pretty soon it gets so better where the only time you have to look behind yourself is to see how far you went. That's the only time you want to look behind yourself to see how far you've come.
That's beautiful.
That would be my suggestion to newcomers. Just look, if you want to look behind yourself, just look, see how far you've come. And know that you got too much in the game now to turn back anyway. For me, I feel as though I say this. What do I always say in the meetings? Oh, I say this in the meetings quite a bit. Either you're gonna find a way to do something, or you're gonna find an excuse why not to do it.
Yep, absolutely. Either way, you're right.
Either way, yeah, either way, you're right. Yeah, yeah. Either way, you're right, huh?
Yeah,
I like that one too. Yeah, either way. Yeah, I think. Is that part of it?
Well, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you're right.
Yeah. Either way, you're right. Yeah.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely, man. We're on the same page, brother.
You're good.
Same page.
Good.
You're good, man. You're good. Oh, man. Torrance, man. Great suggestions, man. Man, thank you so much for joining us on the show today.
Hey, man, it was my pleasure. I'm glad we were able to work out that connection problem.
Listen, man, anybody who has the tenacity that you do, I knew was going to figure out the Skype.
Yeah, and then you know what? You pissed me off. I'll tell you real quick. You pissed me off with? You said go ask somebody, one of your friends, how to use the Skype. I said, oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. Oh, hell no. Let me figure this out. Oh, hell no. Go ask one of your friends. Oh, hell no. Let me figure this out my damn self. Let me play with this a little bit more. Okay. Yeah. You put a fire underneath me.
It all boiled down to the same thing, man. You know what I mean? Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Either way, you're right. Yeah.
Don't have a poor mentality.
You like that one, huh?
I love it. I love it.
You love that one? Yeah.
I'm going to be using that one.
It's a good one.
Yeah, quit having a poor mentality.
Yeah. I think that holds true in a lot of aspects of our life. We think that what you heard or what came to you wasn't for you.
Yes.
Or, for me, I just didn't think I deserved a lot because you didn't come with people that actually taught you how to live life, So, yeah, that was a good one.
I love it. All right, folks, we have now reached the end of our show. Thanks for joining us. And as we say here in Costa Rica, pura vida.
Pura vida.
Thank you for joining us on the SHAIR Recovery Podcast. To check out the show notes page on this interview or to thank our guests for sharing their story, go to www.theshairpodcast.com. While you're on the website, don't forget to sign up for our free newsletter to stay up to date on the latest news, podcasts, and interviews. Want to be one of our guests and share your story? Then go to our website and click on the Share Your Story button. We share our inspiring recovery stories every Tuesday, so subscribe to our show on iTunes or Stitcher Radio to get your free weekly download. We'll see you then. The opinions shared on this show reflect those of the individual speaker and not of any